Guys, how are you? How was your weekend? Mine was really good. My middle son had a concert. He's a drummer in the AC/DC band that he's in, and they did a bunch of covers of them, and he's really good. It was super fun. My in-laws came out to for the concert and stayed with us. We also hosted a big family dinner yesterday, which turned out great. The weather was so beautiful, summery all weekend, and my kids were all playing with their neighbors, and it was just a good weekend. And now half of my family's gone. My twinsies are on an overnight trip with their class with school. My husband's gone on a work trip, and so it's just myself and my two older boys. And I think it's Monday. It's the end of school year, so I think I'm gonna just take them to the movies this afternoon after school. Maybe grab some dinner at the mall or something. Just something that we normally would never do, right? During the school year when it's so busy with sports and they have to study and all the things, but it feels like we're on vacation already. So I'm just going to do something we don't normally do. So I'm excited, and I want to talk to you about um, control freaks and trying to control the world, and perfectionism, and how we can get better at not being that controlling. And I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on, but I want to shine some light on some of the craziness that goes on in my head, but also, I mean, I think it goes on in everyone's head to a degree in different examples. So that's why I think it's so good to really look at these things, like talk about them, say them explicitly, because as soon as I do that, it kind of loses its power over me because I can see how ridiculous it is. So okay, so it all started, you know how I love Louise Hay, and I love how she connects our ailments to our mind, right, in our head. So our mental state affects our body. And I did recorded a episode about my headaches, and I am still in awe about how that worked, how I was able to get rid of them time and time again on demand. And I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't had headaches recently at all. I don't remember. And so I am a big believer that if we want to feel better in our body, we need to start with our mind as well as all the other things. Like if you don't fix your mind, then you will keep coming back to the same problem physically. So my knee has been hurting. Sure enough, it's been a year, about a year. It's been on and off, and I've been doing all the things like going to physio and working it out and trying all the things to get it better. And whenever I feel like it's hopeless, I go to Louise Hay because I'm like, okay, this must be the thing that will work, right? And I have looked it up before. So I looked it up, and Louise Hay says about the knee pain that it is stubborn ego, fear, inflexibility. And so the cure for that is being flexible, being forgiving, compassion, letting go, trusting life. So, of course, I think it's so funny because I know what really goes on in my life, and what really drives me crazy is a lot of the things with the kids and how I am not flexible at all. I'm trying to control all the things that they're doing, which is getting a lot harder. And like, how about the timing? A year ago, my oldest, turned 14. So now I have two teenagers, basically 14-year-old, almost 15, and a 13-and-a-half-year-old. So it's so much harder I mean, it's impossible to control them. And it's very frustrating to try to control them. So, of course, this is the kind of flaring up for me at this time in my life because I am having a hard time letting go of a lot of the things that I want to have control over. And I have a lot of fear. Okay, so this is where perfectionism comes in. Okay, because because I learned this from Brooke Castillo, which I really think is brilliant. It's true, but the way she words it, you would never think of it that way. The way she says, Perfectionists are people who are just really afraid. Okay. Because if you were okay with any outcome in this situation, then you would not be freaking out that it's not perfect, right? So if you're afraid that something's going to happen, like if you're controlling something, if you're afraid, you're going to be trying to get it perfect, right? Does that make sense to you? It makes perfect sense to me until like until I really look at different scenarios where I am trying to be perfect, and then I ask myself, okay, what am I really afraid of here? And then when I see the answer, I think this is quite hilarious. Okay, so here's one example. One example of me in my perfectionism and my control freakiness. So, toothpaste in the sink. How terrifying. How terrifying is toothpaste in the sink? Like, oh, when the kids, I don't even know how this happens. Like a glob of toothpaste. I don't know. They're boys. I can't control them. I can't supervise every single toothbrushing, right? So, first of all, okay, so I would freak out. I would just lose my mind. I would just because I would think like, why, how, right? And this makes no sense. And why would you do this? And how you don't care and you guys don't care. You're not being thoughtful. But when I really ask myself, okay, if I'm freaking out over this, what am I really afraid of? Well, the answer is I'm afraid of a wasted toothpaste in the sink and also like a dirty sink. And when I say it out loud like that, it's so minor. It does not matter at all. Who cares if there's toothpaste in the sink? Who cares if there's wasted toothpaste? Like, it's not the end of the world. It's not gonna hurt anyone. It's not going to affect anyone in no way at all. Except for if I lose my mind over it, then it's just I'm acting crazy. The kids are stressed out because I'm yelling at them, right? So that is one example where it really worked for me to say it out loud. What am I afraid of? Well, it's happening. First of all, the thing that I was afraid of, that I'm afraid is already happened, and not there's no it's not the end of the world. Nothing terrible has happened. I am not hurt. My kids are not hurt. Nothing. The house is not burned down. We didn't lose all of our money. Like, it's just so ridiculous that it really right away puts things into perspective for me when I put it into light. But when they are not put into perspective, they can really compound into a lot of these instances. Like for me, this before I coached myself on this, the way it would show up is that I would have a million of these instances, right? And I'm sure for you as well, like it wouldn't just be the toothpaste, right? It would be the toothpaste in the sink, clothing on the floor, food on the floor and on the chair on the table, and shoes all over and socks on the lawn, right? Like it's just a million of these instances of our life, our day, our week with our children that are over and over and over and over and over again. So after a thousandth time where you are faced with these tiny, minor, inconsequential instances, then you do blow your lid. You do lose it. You're like, give up. Like, you just seems like you guys don't care. It just seems like you want to trash everything. Like, it just really pisses you off, right? So stepping back and really zooming in to this one instance, instead of looking at all of them, right? When we look at all of them and over our last 10 years of our life, we will get pissed off. We're like, start caring about our stuff. But once I coached myself, like from this perspective, I'm like, okay, if I'm losing my mind, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of this. Well, this happens. And is it really rational, or is it something I want to spend my energy on losing my mind over something so inconsequential? No, right? So it becomes hilarious. Like we're reading Harry Potter with the twins, and I'm reading it to them, and they love it. And one of the I'm sure you remember one of the scenes in Harry Potter was there's a closet, and the students are learning how to deal with a Bogart. And Bogart is a creature, a scary monster, but it takes shape of your worst fear. So once you open the closet, the monster comes out and it takes shape of whatever you're afraid of. So the way to deal with that monster is to do the spell, and the spell is ridiculous. And once you really do the spell and you imagine the monster in the most ridiculous situation, like a spider, if you're afraid of spiders, then the spider's wearing a bunch of rollerblades. So then it's kind of slippering around and doing this funny dance. It looks ridiculous, and you laugh, and you are no longer afraid of it. Well, the same thing happens here when you really look at what things that you are afraid of. You see how ridiculous they are, and they lose their strength over you instantly. The other example that I have is clothing on the floor. I would get so mad because I think I made it mean that they don't care. I made it mean that I'm a terrible mother, that I haven't taught them to put the clothing away in the basket. And I would be tired. And again, it's like the compound interest of little irritations over many years. As a mom, you know what I'm talking about, right? It just compounds. Little things compound where you just blow your mind. But so when I look at it from just an individual point of view, clothing on the floor, it's the worst case scenario. So what, right? I don't have to be afraid of it. Like, why am I afraid of it? Or the one that really bothers me, and I think maybe it has to do with me growing up in Russia and having a scarcity mindset, uh, in a lot of areas of my life, is waste. Wasting anything drives me freaking crazy, irrationally. Like, it's irrational for me to be so upset about it. And so it helps to think of things like, okay, what am I afraid of if the food is not finished? I'm afraid that it's wasted. Well, is it really that terrifying? Is it really that scary? Is there something that bad about it, that if it's wasted, if it's in the bin, if I really think it through, it really doesn't make sense anymore to be that upset over it. And I really like the idea of thinking of, okay, it's either in my child or the food, or it's in the bin, right? It really helps me to think it through, even though it does flare up for me over and over again in my life. But I do still work on it, right? This is something that's continuously I need to work on for myself. It was scarcity. It's scarcity with waste, with food, with um like anything material, and time, right? And this is the other thing, right? Like being late. I don't have to be afraid of being late. So slowly, one by one, if I wrote down the list of all the things I'm afraid of. I'm going to read it to you. It turns out it's nothing to be afraid of. And I really, if I accept the worst case scenarios of them, then I won't be so controlling, right? And but does take work, it does take habit. It's not like a you flip a switch and you're all of a sudden you don't care. But but the first step, this is why I'm sharing with you, is awareness. Once we bring awareness to what we're afraid of, then we are a lot less affected by it, first of all. And then when it comes up the next time, you see it and you are like, oh, I know what this is. Instead of just reacting to it, you are actually having a chance to pause. Once you see that coming up, you have a chance to pause and then decide how you want to react. So let me read some other ones that I wrote here. So clothing on the floor, I told you, toothpaste in the sink, taking too long in the shower at bedtime. Oh, this is the other thing, right? Them taking too long to get to bed. I'm waiting to put them to bed, but then one goes in the shower and then they just have a great time. And half an hour later or 20 minutes later, they're still in the shower. And that just, well, what's the worst? What is so terrible about that? Well, they just go to bed later, or I'm just waiting. Nobody's hurt. Nobody's, worse off, unless unless I allow myself to be triggered by it and get pissed off and blow my mind, right? These things are inconsequential, right? So, because there are some things that I wrote down here that do have consequence. Like, let me see. Um, Having too much screen time. Now, that one, right? I want to care about that one. I want to be more of a involved parent, which is a nicer way of saying controlling parent, right? Um, I do want to be afraid of them having too much screen time, right? That's something I want to care about and be afraid of, because then that's something that matters to me. It matters to me that my kids are healthy mentally, they're healthy physically, right? This is something that makes sense for us to be a little bit more controlling over, be afraid over. But when you put it beside the other ones that are totally inconsequential, then it makes it easier to let go of the other ones. Like, let's see, buying shoes too small. Okay, right? Because the children are always growing. And I don't, I've done that before myself as a mistake for them. But when I take my teenagers and they want to buy shoes, well, they're not too small. What I call too small is when they fit, right? When they fit just right, that means in 2 months they're going to be outgrow them. So I prefer, okay, well, if I'm spending like $150 for you on shoes, on that are, they're great shoes they're going to wear, I want at least 6 months out of them, right? And that's what I asked them. I said, if you were paying them for them, would you pay for these? If they're just right, like in a month or two, you're going to outgrow them. So this one's kind of in the middle for me, because I'm like, well, this is wasteful for us to spend money on something that you're going to outgrow. But at the same time, can I allow you to make that mistake? Yes, kind of, maybe, it does feel good to wear shoes that fit just right, right? It does not feel good to wear shoes that are too big. So this is kind of like where, I sometimes let them guide me and see what it's like, and I, test out the shoe. Anyway, this is just an example, right? Um Not finishing the drinks. So my kids love, love, love sparkling water and bubblies, and they love them so much. They take them all the time, but then I often find half full or full bubblies around the house or in the backyard. And of course, it pisses me off. Why am I spending my money on something that's going to go down the drain, right? So that is also something that is irritating me, that I want to control. Why do I want to control it? So I don't waste money. Why do I not want to waste money? Because I'm afraid that we're going to waste our money, right? I'm afraid that they're gonna not gonna finish it. I'm afraid. The fear, like, that's the funny part, is what we are afraid of in the control freak situation where we're over controlling, is the worst case is already happening. That's the funny part too. It's already happened. It's happening all the time. But yet we lose our, well, not you, but I lose my mind over it. Why? Because I'm basically fighting against reality. I don't want this to happen. So I lose my mind over it. I just get so upset. I get upset like it's such a surprise, like it's a shock that happened, even though I can predict that will happen. So basically, talking about how we make ourselves crazy with these little things. And if this is helpful to you, I really am glad. If you think I'm crazy, then this episode is this podcast is not for you. But if it is helpful, then I'm glad. I'm sharing my craziness because it helps be less crazy when we talk about it out loud, right? When we really put it out there and examine it and look at it, look at our behavior, look what's driving it. We're like, oh my gosh, this makes zero sense. I'm not going to do it anymore. So I constantly go back and forth between buying the bubblies and not buying them. And I guess it's probably fine to do that, because yeah, I just think sometimes on the weekend I buy them, right? And then I try not to buy them for a while. And every time I buy them, I get frustrated that either two things: they drink too much of them, right? They forget about water. That's one. And then the other thing is like some of the times they don't finish them, right? So I get frustrated that it's wasted. So overall, I think the goal is to not buy them over all the time. For that feels right for me. Maybe for you it works differently, but for me, because I have four boys, anything that's kind of junk, I find junky or not real food, it just disappears. They seem like they're a vacuum. Now that they're almost 14, 13-year old, they just vacuum it up. Whatever I get that's really just a little bit junky, it's just gone, right? So I'm trying to not keep things like that in my house, to really focus on like setting an example, feeding them with real food, blah blah blah. You know what I'm talking about. We're all on that route together, different ways, different levels, but we all have the same goal of, I believe we do, right? We want to feed them healthy food. We want to eliminate junky foods for us and them. So that's another example I wanted to give you. What's the other example? Well, not eating what I made for dinner. That one drives me crazy, right? Because I put all this work in, and the big boys are pretty good. Twins, there's some work still to be done. And I also go back and forth between like being okay with them not eating it, and like, but saying, okay, you make some scrambled eggs and here, pick a fruit or a veggie. But on the other hand, I do want them to eat what I make, to get used to eating different foods. Sorry, my car's just getting really hot, and just open the door to cool down. But it's really nice recording in the car because it's quiet and I'm isolated. So, um, yes, washing clean clothes. That one used to drive me crazy for a while, until I realized, well, what's, you know, what if I'm just okay with washing clean clothes? So my older boys are getting, they got a bit better as they grew at not making their clothing dirty every day, right? So, for example, their polos, whatever they wear to school every day, I do wash because their teenagers are sweating. But the pants, I think the pants can be worn, you know, once or twice or three times until they kind of either get stains on them or just kind of get dirty, but not necessarily every day I need to wash them. Whereas with little kids, whatever they wear that day, you need to wash, right? And now, so with twins, the same things. Kind of, they're transitioning to wear we can rewear the jeans once or twice. But I would educate them on this, and then they completely, of course, would disregard anything that I taught them. I would tell them, you need to turn the pants inside out, the right way out, and look at them. Do they look dirty? Are they dirty? If they're dirty, put them in the basket. If they're not dirty, then fold them, put them back. Of course, nobody's doing that. And it's unreasonable. It's like no one's going to do that. I understand. But once in a while, again, I would get upset. I would be like, why are you putting in these clean clothes in the basket? Do you want me to wash clean clothes? And it just felt like I would overreact over that way too much because I was afraid to clean clothing, right? And so when I asked myself, what am I afraid of? It seemed ridiculous. Like, so what? So what if you clean clothes? If you don't want to, just go through the laundry. I tell myself, just go through them and pick out the ones that are still seem wearable and move on, right? Or the alternative is every single weekend or week, once a week, I have to go and force each boy to go through that when they don't want to. So that seems like a way more work for me, to go to each boy and force them to do that and do it again and again and again. It's just so much more work than I'm willing to do. Then I'm willing to rather do it myself, or just simply assume everything's dirty and just wash it. Who cares? Which I do. So again, putting a light on this where I'm trying to be super controlling, super upset, finding out what am I really afraid of here, deciding, well, it's pretty crazy, and then not being upset over it. helps a lot. Helps a lot, right? The other thing is, there's a whole other chapter, is being controlling over what my kids eat, which is so crazy for me. I'm really, and that's one thing. The other thing is how much my big kids are on their phones, right? That for me, I'm trying to be, trying to be a good parent, but also not trying to over control them too much. That's the other thing, right? And having a big family, we have to have a house big enough for a big family. So sometimes I don't know where they are. Well, what does a mother think when you don't know where they are? Well, you don't know, so you assume the worst. They're on the screen somewhere, and I have to find them and bust them, right? Which is controlling, right? I'm not letting go. I'm not trusting that everything is all right. And hence my knee, right? Do you see the connection? Trying to control little things, big things, important things, and being afraid of all of these terrible outcomes. Yes, cleaning clean clothes, terrible outcomes. Toothpaste in the sink, so scary, right? So so this is me. This is how I decode Louise Hays' work, as I try to really break it down into the smallest episodes in my life, and like, okay, how am I being inflexible? And of you guys should see my husband react to this when I tell him about Louise Hay and my knee and what she says, and he laughs because he sees me doing all these things and being control freak, and he just, and I tell him, okay, tell me what you think that I should improve on, and he just tells me everything, right? He's like, you need to let the little kids be more flexible with this, and you need to let big kids let make more decisions, and on and on and on. And he's just so vague in general, and I know already all this about me, and so I like it more specific. I'm like, no, 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 I need more specific. Like vague, yes, I already know vaguely. I like to control things. I already know vaguely that I'm overbearing and afraid and kind of too anxious. So I try to break it down into small episodes and specifically what they are, and be a little and let go. And so over this past weekend, I did see lots of opportunities for me where I wanted to be more controlling. Like even just the instance where my kids come to me and say, Mama, can I have a bubbly? That's just a sign to me that I'm super controlling, too controlling. Like there are households where nobody asks their mom if they can have a bubbly, right? That's just an example. And embarrassing, maybe a little bit. Is that how it is? Yes, that's how it is. And because I do like to be in control, well, and I have my reasons, right? For my little kids, I like to control. Like if they have a big bubbly before their dinner, well, they're gonna be full. They're not gonna have space for dinner. That makes sense to me. I can reason that with the bigger kids, I can be more trusting that they can handle themselves and figure things out and have a bubbly whenever they want to and still have dinner, right? So I'm slowly learning how to let go, where not to let go, and where I can kind of stop controlling. And I'm assuming it's going to be a longer process because my knee still hurts, but I do believe this works. I do believe our mind is connected to our body, and if we are like, if I'm still right now, I'm at the stage where I'm like fake it till you make it. So I'm pretending that I don't care, like I'm flexible, but inside I do care. I'm like, oh God, why are you eating candy? Who gave him candy? And why are you eating it before dinner? Blah blah blah, right? Or why, like my husband, why did you say yes to him having this drink? Like, I still do care. I still do cringe in my mind. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And I let go of it because I'm like, well, nothing I can do about it now. It's out of my control. So I am getting there. My life is telling me, like, dude, you really have zero control over it. It's just I'm fighting against it, right? If I just kind of like slowly accept that I really don't have control, it's a lot more peaceful. So much more peaceful, right? because you really do forget about it. You're like, well, I can't control it. Like when my kids go to grandparents' house and there's pop, I did have a fight over it once. Well, not a real fight, but like a little. I tried to do something about it and it backfired. It didn't work. So now I know for sure I don't have control over it. So I don't worry about it. I don't think about it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's only 1 week. But in my house, I still have the illusion of control that sometimes I have. So that then it becomes a dance for me to figure out, okay, where to let go, where not to let go, where do I let them experience the consequence and where not. So that's what I have for you guys today. And hopefully it's useful for you to really examine where are you trying to control something that is not really up to you, and what are you really afraid of. That this is the thing, this really makes me happy when I think of it, is like perfectionist people are just really afraid. They're afraid to fail, afraid to have a good enough result, afraid to have it not perfect, afraid to have the kid have any sugar, afraid to have the kid waste some food, afraid to have a kid waste some toothpaste, afraid to have a kid waste water or have a messy bedroom, afraid to have somebody like in-laws coming in and making a judgment on the messy home, which actually I'm fine with. Like I'm doing my best, and if they don't like it, whatever. Like I've gotten over it. But it is someone. It is. I know people do stress about it, right? Where you're afraid that others will judge you for how you're parenting, right? Super stressful. So what if we were not afraid somebody will judge us? Then we would be less controlling, right? Logically, we would just be more accepting of the chaos and imperfections that we have in our family with our kids, and just be at peace. Like this is as good as it gets. This is what I have. Yes, this floor is clean, but upstairs is super messy, and like my kids don't make beds most of the time because I can't. No matter what I try, I just basically gave up. I just don't want to fight them over it. So it's so freeing, actually, to accept that is, let's say, that's my flaw as a parent, to accept that they don't want to do it. And then when the grandparents say to my child, they're like, oh, I'm so surprised you didn't make your bed. And I feel I don't feel bad at all. Like before I would get embarrassed. I would feel actually really bad that I'm a failing as a parent. But now that I've kind of accepted it, I was actually like happy to talk about it, and I would say to the grandparents, I'm like, dudes, maybe you can get him to make the bed because I have obviously failed at this. It just gives you so much freedom to actually improve on that thing that you're struggling with and not feel bad. You don't feel guilty, and you actually can laugh about it and ask for help, which is so amazing. Whereas if you were judging yourself, you're like, oh, they're right, I'm terrible, they're like 10 and 14 and they still don't make their bed. Well, I am just terrible and this is so embarrassing and they're judging me. And I would just shut down. You would shut down. You would look forward to them leaving, and you're like, I hate it when they come because they always judge me, blah blah blah. But I didn't do any of that. I'm like, you know what, I need help. Can you please teach the boys? This is actually what I tell my dad every time when he tells me on things that I could teach my kids. And I go, great, please, can you do that one? This is awesome. I don't have space for this. Can you teach them this one? If you want to teach him how to play chess, go ahead. If you want to teach him how to whatever thing, you can. Great. Can you do that? I need you to do that. And quickly he shuts up because I don't know, either he doesn't want to do it or he realizes he can't do it or something like that. But it's so freeing to realize that you do have a lot of shortcomings as a parent, and that you don't have to be perfect at all of them. Like out of all the things if the bed is the one downside that I didn't teach them to do, well, I can make peace with that. All right, guys. Hope I hope you're doing well and your summer's starting out well. And I love you and have a great day. Bye.